We're going to do right now is continue kind of diving into the significance of them with our friends Tom LoBianco at 24 Sight and Brian Sobel, political analyst. They join me. You guys, Brian, Tom, thanks for being with us here. Brian, my first question to you is this. Was this a Joe Biden who was humbled by his age, who was humbled by history, or was this a Joe Biden who was going against his will, unchastened by this decision? What do you think?
My view is this was Joe Biden putting a capstone on his time in public office, essentially saying goodbye in many respects. I don't suspect we'll see a whole lot of him after a convention appearance. He even struggled a little bit in this talk. He does well on a prompter generally, but this has been a very, very hard few days for him. And I think this was his way of saying goodbye. He made a couple of points. It's been pointed out that the reference to the reform of the Supreme Court is significant. Absolutely. It won't happen on his watch, certainly. And he referenced, obviously, Kamala Harris, who out here in California we're very familiar with. You know, other than that, this was kind of putting a ribbon around his presidency.
You know, that's the thing, Tom. I was asking our previous guest, for the next 6 months, how can reporters or even, Biden aides and advisors, and even the American people, look at Joe Biden when he meets with the world leader, when he makes a policy pronouncement, and not think in the back of their mind, he's not going to be president for much longer. You know, it seemed like Brian, Tom, was alluding to the fact that this somewhat smacked of a resignation speech. Did you get that?
Well, it's interesting. If you look at the structuring of the speech, of course, we're all writers. And, God knows I could put my stories together better like that. Don't forget the kicker. If you look at it over the course of 12 minutes, and this is what I'm thinking about as I, write my piece off of this, is number one, again, it's the John Meacham influence.
Sure.
It was buttoned up real nice at the end there. It hit the points that they needed to. In some ways, it's one part American mythology, telling the story of America, of Ben Franklin, as he talked about there. One part about his legacy, touting his accomplishments, which does give the impression here that, hey, you know what? I'm probably not going to get Supreme Court reform done. Okay, that's probably not happening.
Yeah.
He flicked Kamala Harris there, gave her a nod, but didn't lean too hard into it. And I think that was important as well, because if this had veered into the direction of a partisan speech, it would have lost its power.
I see. Brian, I wanted to ask.
A historic speech. It would have been another partisan pot shot. And by giving her one or two lines in there, that was all you needed to do. I felt that he grasped the gravity of this moment.
All right. Brian, I wanted to ask, too, because I had been wondering whether or not, Biden is going to be intimately involved in now the Harris campaign as well. And his theme throughout his campaign and his presidency has been threats to democracy, the soul of the nation. He said it so often on the campaign trail in 2019 and 2020 here. Do you think it kind of sunk in for viewers watching the gravity of his line that he so often uses? I was talking to Tom that it seemed like an implicit acknowledgement that he realized the polls showed that he would probably lose to Donald Trump. And there he had it. He put his ambition aside, he said, and he said, I'm bowing out of the race. And Kamala Harris can see how she fares against Donald Trump because the threat to democracy is so great. I mean, Donald Trump just on a campaign stage there in Charlotte kind of mocked the idea of being a threat to democracy. Something that I also noticed was he didn't directly address his Democratic primary voters, 14 million of them, who you can make the argument maybe were disenfranchised by all the hijinks going on in the Democratic Party as of late here. Should he have spoken to them directly, Brian?
To me, again, that wasn't this type of speech.
Okay.
And I've been around a lot of speeches. I think, to Tom's point, he soft-pedaled criticism. It was not partisan. I think he was trying to set his place in history.
Okay.
And again, I talk about history a lot because in this case, whether he wants to paint this as a situation where he thought he merited a second term, but he's doing what's right for the nation, give him his due. That's what he wants to say on his way out. But I'd remind viewers that Lyndon Johnson faced the same problem in March of 1968 after he barely won the New Hampshire primary and was mired in the Vietnam War, and he took the decision to walk away. Similarly, Harry Truman lost his first primary in 1952, and he walked away. And they gave similar speeches in the sense of, hey, I've given my heart and soul to the nation and I'm moving on.
Yeah.
That to me was a speech tonight. It was a heart and soul to the nation speech.
All right. We're going to have to leave it at that. Tom LoBianco, Brian Sobel, can't thank you enough for all your analysis and insight, not just tonight, but over the course of the last 2 weeks, you guys. We'll talk again.
Have a good evening.